From the Post-Millennial, Kilmar Abrego Garcia's wife covers up his MS-13 gang member. Well, I'm going to say this. Covers the MS-13 gang tattoos on his hands. Now, the title says covers his hand tattoos with hearts in social media post. However, Libby also recently just shared this. Trump out. He's posted it. This is MS-13. Take a look. This is where it gets really interesting. First, here you can see in his hand what looks like a marijuana leaf, a smiley face, a cross, and a skull. When his wife shared this photo, she covered his hand up with hearts because those tattoos are MS-13 gang tattoos. Donald Trump has the image. It says, "This is the hand of the man the Democrats feel should be brought back to the U.S. because he is such a fine and innocent person. They said he is not a member of MS-13, even though he's got MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles. And 2 highly respected courts found he was a member of MS-13, beat up his wife, etc. I was elected to take bad people out of the U.S., among other things. I must be allowed to do my job, make America great again." In this image, you can see the marijuana is M, the smile is S, the cross is 1, and the skull is 3. Now, the only question I have is, I understand MS1, but what about the 3? How is the skull a 3? Do we understand
Just
that?
the curve in the side of the skull would be like...
Makes a 3?
Yeah.
3 holes, eyes and nose.
I think it's that
Perhaps.
if you just take off the left side that it creates
A 3?
I don't know. I think that's what they're...
So, I mean, marijuana smiley is MS, and the cross is a 1. And they all did have tattoos like this on their hands. Now, the reporting from gang unit, like gang officers and a DA who appeared on Fox is that they've moved away from tattoos and are because it makes you easily identifiable and prosecutable. But, ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe we even have to have this conversation. I know that every single person listening right now knows this already. The guy was MS-13.
Well, the sting where he was arrested in 2019 outside of a Home Depot, that was part of an investigation into gang activity in the area. He wasn't just picked up for loitering.
A Hispanic person was arrested outside of a Home Depot?
3 of them.
I don't believe you.
And didn't they say it was because they were looking for work?
Yeah, people have said that it was because
day
they were
laboring.
looking for work. But it was, I mean, the police arrested him because they were investigating gang activity in the area. They were already under surveillance.
I mean, come on. Like, the marijuana smiley face is clearly MS. Is there an argument they're going to have to why he has comparable gang tattoos to MS-13, which spells out at least MS-1?
He's got multiple sclerosis. He loves Jesus, and he'll go to the grave believing that. I don't see why any of you would say this young man who's obviously having trouble going to school and needs a job hanging outside of Home Depot would be anything other than a fantastic addition to the United States population. Racism. Stop
Have you encountered any stuff like this in your line of work?
No, the city of Buffalo doesn't it has a majority of local gangs, so like block gangs. You know, like we've got Bailey Avenue, so you got the Bailey Boys and stuff like that. Bang them, fuck them, leave them. But we do have old heads in the gang. That's one of the gangs.
Old heads?
An old head is an older individual that's been in the gang life for a while. So like say like 25 and older, and we'll have
That
old
sounds like young. That's a young person.
gang life's hard life.
Yeah, it seems tough.
If you make it 25.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
you've been in the game for a minute because they'll start at like 15, 16. So by the time you get to 25, you've got half of your retirement in. You know, it's 10 years.
Yeah, wow.
So we'll have old heads that, like I said, are older people that have been in the streets for a while, and they'll rep. They'll be the OG for like a block gang, but they'll be Bloods. So a specific example that I can think of is there was an old head. He was a Blood, is a Blood, and he takes these 2 or 3 smaller block gangs under his wing. They don't battle with one another. They're friendly with one another, and they don't work for him, but he guides them. And he also has connections to
He's
other
like the
blood
Godfather.
groups. You know, like the Godfather, and like a smaller aspect for like just that portion of town.
The 5 blocks is the 5 families.
In
Yeah.
Chicago, all the gangs are Catholic.
What's that?
In Chicago, not all, but like most of the gangs are Catholic.
Is that like an old Irishy type thing?
There's the popes, the bishops, the disciples. I'm not kidding. And there's a
Seriously.
yes. And I don't know if they're actually Catholic, but my friends were always making that joke, like what's next? The choir boys? Like, why are they all
Church
Catholic?
loves violence.
It does. And then there's different sects of each. So there are different popes. The popes are a gang, and there's a bunch of different ones. And the bishops, and the Latin kings are obvious. They're more national, and that's not so religious, but they are all largely Christian. I do find that really interesting about the MS-13 with like the cross. Like these guys largely purport to be Christian, don't they?
they follow, or they like pray to like the weird saint, like the Saint de la Muerte or something like that. It's like the saint of death, and it's this overseeing saint that like understands criminals and works with criminals. It's a load of horseshit. It's like voodoo funky bullshit.
Someone says the skull in Spanish is craneo, which starts with C, the third letter in the alphabet. Is that it?
Maybe.
Well, personally, I'd like to see Trump get FAFO tattoos on each of his hands. That would be pretty cool if he showed up with that.
ChatGPT could do that for you.
AI for that right now.
And by the way, a couple of issues here. One is the question of whether he's MS-13 has been answered. So one, they talk all about the due process this guy was supposed to get. He got every drop of due process he was entitled to. And part of due process
much.
is
He got
also
too much.
So many processes.
Part of due process is also finality of law. A decision has been made. It's over. And this decision was made by two different courts in 2019. An immigration judge, before which this guy appeared with a lawyer, had the opportunity to rebut this evidence that he was MS-13. He failed to do that. Then he appealed to an appellate board for the immigration, and that judge also adjudicated him MS-13. It's over. We're not going back and asking the same question over and over again endlessly.
What do Democrats expect to have happened? Someone to
They want it to go away.
like a
They
jury
want
trial.
it's like a dead unicorn in the road, and they just want it to be alive again. They just don't like the situation. It's not to their satisfaction.
Well, what
they want it changed.
I think what they really wanted was they wanted to bring 10 million people into the United States and keep them here forever.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why they had varying legal statuses for all of these people, refugees, asylum seekers, all this. You're an attorney. I have this question. So I was doing a little digging into what could cause a person to get, how a person could be deported without like a whole court thing, right?
Right.
And so it's
Which is not what happened here, by
No,
the way.
that's not what
Okay.
happened here. But it said that asylum seekers, if your case is dismissed or denied, then you are eligible for deportation. Joe Biden in last June quietly dismissed 350,000 asylum seekers cases. There's a backlog of about 2 million cases. Could the Trump administration just dismiss all of these asylum cases and then deport everybody who's on that backlog?
Well, what they could do is everybody's entitled to due process, even these guys. Even the TDA guys under the Alien Enemies Act are entitled to due process. But what due process means is not the same for everybody. The due process I'm entitled to as an American citizen before I can be deported from the country is very, very high. The amount of due process someone who's here on an asylum basis or a temporary basis or a parole basis or a completely unlawful basis is very, very, very low. That's why we have immigration courts. Congress said, we don't want these immigration cases going through our federal district trial courts. We don't want that. It just blocks up the whole system. We're going to take that jurisdiction away from the federal district trial courts and assign it to specialized immigration courts. So first of all these immigration cases, the district courts have no jurisdiction over them. They're in the wrong place. And when they're in
Boasberg and what's her name in Boston,
Yes.
that's the wrong place.
Yes. And the immigration courts are allowed to do things in a much more accelerated way. For example, these don't have to be individualized hearings. You could bring in 100 MS-13 guys, and the government could hold up a piece of paper and say, yes, we've determined that each of these is an MS-13 people subject to deportation. Bam, they're all gone. It doesn't have to be an individualized hearing. So you can do it in an accelerated way. In this particular case, one really outrageous part of this is this guy was deported on March 15th. His family didn't even file anything in court, in federal district court, until March 24th, 9 days later. By then, he had been in El Salvador for 9 days. The United States has zero jurisdiction over that guy the moment he's been returned to El Salvador. So everything that's happening in federal district court with respect to this guy is completely lawless. Courts do not have infinite and unlimited authority and jurisdiction.
Wouldn't this be a lack of standing or something?
It's a lack of jurisdiction. So the first thing a court is supposed to ask itself when a dispute is presented to it is, do I, as the court, even have the jurisdictional authority to hear this case? This is an El Salvadoran citizen who's in El Salvador.
What if he was an American? They'd have jurisdiction over the American citizen, right?
But he's not an American citizen.
No, my argument is if an American citizen got deported to El Salvador like Democrats are whinging about, courts would have
Sure,
jurisdiction
sure.
because
the
he's
U.S.
an
government has jurisdiction over American citizens.
You can look at the types of things that we're doing with prisoner exchanges with Russia when we're trying to get out what we believe are politically held prisoners over there. We can't make Russia through a court order or any other means release them to us. That's a fact. We have to go through other negotiation means to get somebody back, whether it's a journalist or a basketball player or, a supposed spy, whatever they say, right? But we can't force them to.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.